Welcome to the Regent Year 10 podcast. Today we will discuss whether AI is a friend or foe, and if it will potentially take over the world. Reports suggest that the stock of robots worldwide could reach 20 million by 2030, with automated workers taking up 51 million jobs in the next 10 years.
That's actually pretty interesting because, I don't know, my mom's not gonna cook food for me anymore. She used to be a chef, and now a robot's doing cooking food for me. I don't think that's. I don't want to eat food that is given by a robot. You know what I mean? Like sometimes robots don't really fit that specific job. If you agree.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Like, if we're gonna have like a nursery and they're all like with robots, then children at a very young age will be like not so lovable maybe, and they won't feel like the warmth and emotion you'd normally feel from another human. So maybe people might be more cold to each other and like less friendly. But if you think about it also, if robots start to take over like the small jobs like mining, creating like IKEA furniture or whatever, then people won't have to work and we have no need for money because we have robots doing it for like us, and we can just sit down, go to work maybe, and like we don't need to do like such small jobs and small tasks that cause death for millions of people around the world.
Yeah, I agree actually, because that's a good point for real. Because if you think about it, like sometimes in the future, our children won't have like the same like mindset as like other people, everyone else around us have right now. It'll be more like it'll be more about what the robot is thinking about, and like they'll try to follow the robot instead.
I'd agree with that because teachers, like he said, teachers need to have that emotional love, which every teacher has. Not like robots. Robots are rather emotionless and they don't really show emotions towards anything, whatever they're doing. I'd rather suggest that robots should be used at factories, for example, to lift heavy loads, which is very hard on humans. So that's way more easier than just doing simple jobs which humans do every day, like being a teacher or cooking food or whatever.
Yeah, but doesn't that also lead to the loss of lots of jobs for many people? Like right now, many people in the industrial places like factories and manufacturers, they employed lots of people who like low labor jobs, and these jobs are crucial to them as they support their families and send money back to their countries, and like robots would remove all of the need for those jobs.
I'd agree with that, but then there are dangerous risks when it comes to working at factories, and robots can deal with that, and they don't usually make errors unless they malfunction sometimes. But that's a very less likely thing to happen.
Yeah, but isn't human intervention required at some point? Because humans have a different analog thinking rather than the digital straightforward thinking of AI, because we have out of the box thinking and we can imagine newer things.
I do
AI.
agree that most of the robots are restricted with the things they do, and that can be quite a problem. And I think that's where the disadvantage point comes in.
But I think maybe in the future, maybe robots will slowly start to look at humans and mimic more on humans, and maybe eventually there might be robots that self-program themselves and add like emotions from what we think is emotions, but for them it's just like logical thinking, like a bunch of code. But they'll eventually slowly start to mimic humans and become more human-like, I guess, more like they'll think, maybe eventually we'll reach a certain point where a robot might want a family or something.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes even I feel like that the population of artificial intelligence will be slightly or like the same as human beings in the future, because right now there are stuff that are harming the environment, and COVID especially. So like that way the population might might decrease probably because of everything that's happening right now. And it's crazy because like there are more YouTube accounts, like the population of YouTube accounts is more than like the population of the entire planet Earth. so I'm thinking that maybe in the future we will make like lots and lots and lots of more artificial intelligence and more robots that and like hopefully like no, well, not hopefully, like someday they will like outgrow us and then they'll like take over us, like that, something like that.
So we've been talking a lot about how robots can affect humans, but humans are the people that program the robots, so robots can only be as intelligent as humans. So
But AI are self-learning. They learn on their own, like tangents, and they have a provided data set, and they infer what they can from the data and performs actions based on that.
Yeah, and eventually maybe while feeding robot information so that it can like be more human, we might accidentally like refer to death, and then once the robot hears that it's being shut down or like terminated, it might go crazy and break out of its like shell that we put it in and eventually become human, and it doesn't want to die, it's scared of dying. And then it starts becoming crazy basically.
Well, I mean, like, artificial intelligence doesn't have to be like inside Earth. It can be in a game as well. Like, have you seen Free Guy, that movie?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you know how like there's this one character who's like an AI basically. It has its own mind. It has like its own life in the game, and it's like it's not really harming anyone. It's just living its own life. So maybe AI is not really like a like it's not really harmful, I guess you could say. It depends on the situation most of the time. So yeah.
There is a negative point about that. I'd say that they can also hack into social media and also traffic lights. There is actually a robot. Her name is Michaela, and she has hacked into traffic lights, like by changing their traffic lights, which can actually lead to accidents. And that's again a negative point because it causes people to die.
And humans can, like AI, they can only do as much as the humans can program, as Ava had said. And like you're saying in the game, they're limited by the game's infrastructure. They cannot like self-develop out of the game, but it is possible that they might go out of it one day. And already like the device population is really high. Like the Internet of Things already has more than a few billion devices, and that is increasing at a rapid rate. So AI could overtake humans one day, and we don't know what could happen then.
Well, what if AI takes over us? We gotta like maybe there'll be like a war. Like,
I think Visham has to say something.
I
on
don't
this.
think there would be a war actually, because like if you're gonna make so many robots, you would have a way to shut them down. You know?
You could
can't
develop
just-
around
Yeah,
it.
but
couldn't they?
personally I think that maybe robots might learn of this, that you could shut them down like maybe an EMP, and that would be like the biggest weakness, and they might like find a way to counter it because they can do like billions of calculations per second maybe, and like that's only going to improve as the years go on, and since that's improving, eventually they're going to come up with more solutions faster than we can even like say a word, and eventually maybe we might even become cyborg. Maybe they want to feel like touch and everything like a human does, wants to feel how love feels, so they might just take us over and, you know, adapt into humans.
yes, well, I think going back to jobs, I think that a lot of people are going to try to make robots take over every single job they can possible because they are so cost effective. They can work 24/7, and also they don't necessarily currently have religions and cultures, so they won't have to take holidays like Christmas or Eid or that kind of thing. So I think that's why people are really going to want to try and add robots into jobs, although I think that might be a problem because obviously robots are not nearly as reliable as humans, because even though, yes, they are more accurate, they can always malfunction. And so I think the more risky jobs like surgery definitely should be left to humans.
I think Afonso has something to say on the topic.
I think robots should be replacing low-skilled jobs like factories. But yeah, the high-skilled like doctors and police, it's hard because they have to make important decisions. like a doctor has to make important decisions on how if this patient should live or not, because there's every day doctors they have to make decisions, and it's very hard to do that.
Yes. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Well, but I think that some things like maybe police job, it could be replaced by a robot because they won't have any emotional bias to it. Like, if a policeman were to like have an emotional bias and it's present in modern day as it is, then it's gonna be a problem because his way of the law is, you know, corrupt, and he's not gonna be able to make maybe proper judgments on, you know, situations. But a robot will go through its system, look at all law books, and then in the matter of like a few seconds decide what should be done and take the most, you know, accurate, like, you know, solution after running it through a simulation in its head.
Yeah, I agree with you. Some jobs, I think they should be left to humans, but there is a lot of jobs that could be replaced by robots. And the efficiency for robots is definitely better, but I think some jobs should still be left to humans.
But I think ethical dilemmas, like for police officers, they vary, and the victims might be like they might be posed as the aggressor, and they might be arrested, you know, instead of.
Yeah, well, but like, who knows if like there will be certain robots like replacing like normal human jobs, because like I feel like only the richer countries will be able to do that, because in the future obviously we won't have a lot of, you know, resources and money to like build this robot. So it kind of depends on where you are living, and like, yeah, I mean, like, let's say you're living in a rich country like the US, right? They will have more artificial intelligence and more automated jobs because they have money and they have resources. So that's the thing.
I mean, that's natural. Believe it or not, some places still don't have internet or Wi-Fi.
Exactly.
So it's gonna slowly evolve.
I have an interesting fact to say. So some robots, they actually have their own passports. Like Sophia, the robot, the first human robot, she was made in Hong Kong, in China, and she actually has her own passport, which is very interesting.
Oh wow.
Another interesting fact is that there are actually pet robots, which I think is definitely something pretty cool, even though I know that robots definitely have advantages and disadvantages. I think that there are also some quite cool and revolutionary things that robots can do.
I think that's an alternative for people who are not social, and I think like a robot pet would not replace the actual anything, and friends, like as I said, people could develop relationships with AI in the future with relation algorithms being developed, and that could be a bad thing if people stop being social in society.
That is true.
Well, I think that having a robot pet would be like really good, because if you have like, let's say in the past you had a dog, right? It only lives for around 10 to 12 years and you build a strong bond with it, right? When it like, you know, when it dies basically, it's gonna be really sad for you and you're gonna feel really hurt, and you might like, you know, have some issues with like, you know, just displaying these emotions, so it could cause problems for you mentally.
Yeah, but that's a better way, because real like a synthetic robot would not be give the same feeling and of attachment, because you know you can always buy a new one if that one stops working, and that eliminates the feeling of love.
Yeah, but some people might, you know, some like maybe there's might be a small percentage, but like some people might like look at that dog, and even though like it's malfunctioning and everything, it's still like theirs. They know it's theirs, and like they're basically loyal to it and would like take it to a service shop and everything, and like would just care for it like it's its own child. Like,
I don't want metal to be licking my face. I would much rather prefer a living thing which has feelings. I can listen to its heartbeat. I don't want to listen to a bunch of metals inside my own pet. Like, that's weird. Yes, obviously.
I agree with that point, because pets are there to be like human companions, and they are there to be there for you and just, you know, have emotions and express themselves. I wouldn't say the same thing can go for a synthetic thing, because it's made by humans. You cannot do anything. It's not a natural thing. And most of all, robots don't show emotions again, so here goes with that point again.
but with all the technology developing today, I'm pretty sure that there are like ways to emit like the heat from a robot. Like there's definitely ways to like move the heat around the robot generated to like make it feel like it's actually like a warm body. And like there's definitely materials nowadays that feel like human skin, which would give the same touch as it. And like they would definitely like, they wouldn't just release like, oh look at this robot pet. They would definitely like change it to look like an actual dog, make it function like an actual dog. Like I think it was Michaela or something, the robot. They're already like making her look like human, and maybe in 20-30 years we won't even know what's human and what's a robot.
I agree. I think that, but I still think that obviously, real life biological pets are better. But there is the argument that a lot of people do want pets, but for some reason, like a big one is allergy. Like a lot of people are allergic to pets, yet really want one. So I think maybe an artificial pet could be a good substitute.
Also, some people they use pets for stuff like guards as for protection or something. So I think robot pets would be really good for that.
But we can already get robot bots that can already do that. The same job as a dog. There'll be no need for a robot dog when you can just have a robot armed guard.
Okay, let's say something else. Maybe like hunting. You
What do
could
you mean?
use a pet for that.
But I don't think you'd do hunting much with a robot dog. At that point, it's just a one shot, one kill.
I have another interesting fact. Some studies show that most of the population prefer the sound of a female voice over a male voice. It is because if you ask voice assistants like Alexa and Siri a question, you'll be answered by a pleasant voice, which is a female voice. So that's why women bots are the most common bots. And I think that's very interesting if you think about it, because there are robots like, again, Sophia. Like the manufacturers who have produced her, they also considered this fact, and that's the main reason why they chose to go for a female robot.
Yeah, but I also think that Siri is also the default voice, the female one, and that's the original. So they would also continue on with that. And also developing on your point, I don't think relationships with AI should be developed because it could be used as training, but I think you should not replace actual human being contact because that would be really detrimental to your psychology.
Yeah.
And it detriments the population, because right now in some countries the population, like at the rates it grows usually, is going down a quick steep down, especially in Japan where more people don't really have maybe human interactions, and the population right now isn't looking that good as numbers are decreasing slowly as the years go by.
Going back to Sarah's point about women bots that are more common, I think it's actually really interesting because obviously previously in history there's been a lot of inequality between female and males. And so I think that if women bots are more popular, then this could possibly die out, or at least make significantly die out inequality between the two genders.
I think that would happen naturally as opposed to by creating a new thing.
But I think it would definitely help.
But I mean, I think some people are just too lazy to change it. Maybe like they're like, oh, well, this is the default voice. I have no problem with it. Yeah, just keep it there.
I guess that's the end of this podcast. It's been really nice.
Thank you so
talking with
much
all.
for listening.
Yeah.
And I hope we can do this again. So
Yeah.
goodbye, guys.
It
Bye.
was very enjoyable.
That was enjoyable.